Professor Vibhuti raised, particularly concerning the marginalized and the socially excluded section. So with the given time, I'll try to focus on the important points, and we may have discussion later. Yes, the first one is about addressing the major challenges faced by women in the informal sector. Since economic reforms policies have been implemented, we have been on the journey of falling more into the informalization and its associated social security, lack of social security, safety net, etc. And it is all the more important that in the informal sector, some kind of social safety net, social security are ensured. And it was very much emphasized that in the Viksit Bharat statement that there will be a focus on 100% skilled labor with meaningful employment, and which 70 at least bring in to the folder of employment 70% of the women. As of now, it was also presented by the previous speaker that we have touched the 40%, and you all know that 90% or more than 90% are in the informal sector, and that 90, I mean this 40% also, 40% of women or participation rate also has been in the recent phenomenon. Like it was still last couple of years back, it was only below 25 or moved slightly to 27 and 30, and now 37 as per the PLFS survey. And of course, this 40% is also majorly contributed by rural employment. And what is it actually trying to convey to us? Are women going back to agriculture and rural? Is still rural employment prevail? In the sense, it is feminization of labor and agriculture, but at the same time, it is equally the disguised unemployment, where only remaining employment there are to be shared by the women, where men already migrated outside. And thanks to some industrial clusters there, I can quote Tamil Nadu example, where the textile cluster in the entire West Tamil Nadu, Tripur, Coimbatore, etc., very much caters to the needs of the rural, very, very dry, backward regions of rural area, women and girls to get into employment. Either they fly the buses or they take up temporary shelters there, hostels there, residential facilities, etc. So in this sense, it was like it's the Deen Dayal program is also attached with that. And in this budget, what is happening? So as it was already mentioned that these sectors, both Professor Vibhuti and also the earlier speaker, they mentioned that there are either cuts or no increase. So this is very important to be underlined here. So what is required is that in the context of already facing the economy, facing the slowdown and high rural and urban unemployment, it is required that there is a push to kind of in terms of budget allocation to accelerate growth, secure inclusive development, and also stimulate private sector investments in the context where, of course, it's more and more private sector participation. And of course, it is also to uplift household sentiment and enhance the spending power of the middle class, which has very much happened in the recent budget, where the middle class have been kind of, at least again, the women middle class have been given some exemption in terms of the income tax. But there is also other dynamics to be discussed, which needs to be seen in a perspective. Like on the one hand, you have increased the limit, like up to those who are earning up to 12 lakhs per annum need not have to, or exempted. But at the same time, it will also have a cut on the social sector, as we already observed that there will be a cut, and already been also informed that there are cuts both in the education, health, transport, etc. Very important, prominently important, and needy sectors there is a cut. And where some of the sectors where there is an increase also very much in exhibits kind of stagnation, or absolute increase is there, but not in the real terms. So given the inflation, as it was already pointed out, it is very much required that it's not just the absolute increase in the allocation, but the real. So that is also missing. And there are a lot of issues concerning with the protection and safety net in terms of getting the workers under the folder of any social protection for the domestic workers, ASHA workers, Anganwadi workers, because they are kept as informal sector and putting out system like casual laborers, and they go to work, they will, otherwise they won't. So there are a lot of claims by the government that they will try to attend the women, young farmers, rural youth, marginal small farmers, and landless families where the informalization is very much emphasized. And they will try to cover 5 lakh women under this comprehensive multi-sectoral rural prosperity and resilience program, etc. But there are 2-3 issues. It was already mentioned that the Mahatma Gandhi Rural Employment Scheme, in which the gender budget allocations, in absolute terms, it has increased, but in real terms, it is not. And the increase is also as the percentage of gender budget component from 33% to 46%, maybe it might have been prompted by the increase in the number. Like usually it will be more than 50% women in that MNRGA scheme, and now it is 57 recently, and therefore that would have prompted them. And there are also one important area which I want to touch here, both in the rural and urban context. Home-based workers using the social media or any other platform, digital platform, they are engaged in self-employment. So this is the era of self-employment where we are moving far ahead and decline in paid employment or wage employment. And of course, equally is the unpaid work, which is recent PLFS survey also is quite contradicting that there has been increase in employment and increase in unemployment also. So that in a way informs that the unpaid work has been included there in the collection of data, but it is not paid, and therefore it doesn't reflected in the reduction in employment of unemployment. So these three important areas, and of course street vendors who also belong to this informal sector under the Atmanirbhar Nidhi scheme, they try to kind of provide a revamped scheme for the street vendors to access to enhanced bank loans. I am trying to bring the home-based digital and the media platform workers also there. There are many, even in the apartment, people sitting at home doing some business, right from food-based to other, which doesn't come under the count of the enterprises at all. And there is a need to also collect and provide some kind of support to formalize them. That is not much discussed. Then also the unified payments interface link credit for the limit of 30,000, which and with the trying to connect to the capacity development it had also been mentioned there. So these things, of course, there are a step forward, but at the same time, how it will be implemented, whether it will be able to, because one gap which I wanted to earlier mention is that we have a gap in terms of, we allocate. So much is being allocated. I'll also try to bring that data, but there is a gap in spending. So that kind of gap will be taken forward and carried forward in the next year. And that is what I have observed the data, budget allocations for several schemes, wherein the unspent, like the budget 23-24 allocation is somewhat higher, and the next year you haven't spent, the states haven't spent much, and therefore it has been allocated lower allocation for the current in the current budget. And I already talked about this. On the one hand, the work participation rate is on the increase, but at the same time, the gender gap is huge. And you know, the gender gap report also emphasizing that. So unless otherwise the economic participation of women increase, it is difficult. And given that we are in the context of AI and gig economy, digitization of services, etc., and there will be more implications on unemployment, and that needs to be taken care of by proper budget allocation and implementing the same to different sectors. And therefore, the economy needs 78.5 lakh new non-farm jobs every year to keep up with the workforce workforce. But there is also kind of what is missing is the lack of roadmap to that. And so there is that's what I want to try to say, that benefit to organized but loss to the unorganized sector. as far as the informal sector is concerned. So the tax foregone due to concessions in the direct class. And there is also different slab wise, there is some reduction. All these will be definitely benefiting the for organized sector, but it is not to. So in that context, what I'm trying to say that the gain to well off, that is a saving, decline in demand in unorganized sector, that would be the kind of a state wherein it upset whatever increase here you faced will be upset by the decline in demand. So whether it will be really, because the very aim of reducing the taxes and also is to improve the effective demand or increase the middle class to come and spend in a consumption sector, but I am afraid whether that will happen. So that is one important thing. And also as it was already pointed out, that the gig workers and entrepreneurs will be issued with the health insurance ID cards. But more than these two, I do welcome this, but more than that, we have to have labor reforms, labor market reforms where safety net is very important. So what would be the budget and how will it be implemented is not clear. Regarding the urban housing scheme, of course, this is what I wanted to say. There is a decline actually in the budget allocation, and in the PMAOI for housing expenditure 23-24 was 21 crore something, 21 and odd, and in 2025 it was the allocation was 30. So there is an increase of 39%, but actual spent was only 13,067 crore. So that had made you to 2025 to only allocate 19 crore. So that but
is
less than.
Professor Manimekalai, any centrally sponsored scheme, the union government says that it is the state which doesn't give matching grant, no? So that is the reason for unutilized funds. So the
that is I'm also cautioning that the state has the role, the state government has the role, but as it is the absolute number I'm talking, that the unspent grant, there is a responsibility of the central government to motivate the state government to do it, and the reasons to be identified. I fully agree with Professor Vibhuti. And same is true with the Jal Jeevan Mission and the allocation of fund for various other schemes. Regarding the migrant workers, we know that they are the backbone, and there are millions of floating population itself there in different sectors and different packets of the industrial clusters. And I already told about Tirupur. At least around 4 to 5 lakh migrant workers are there any point of time. And given that it is also equally required that at least some protection in terms of their rights, etc. And when you really go and see them, the wage discrimination is there, and the way in which they establish their shelters also, it's open there. Sometimes it's a family or sometimes a single persons, whether it is man or woman, mostly the men. The boys migrated from north and northeast states will be found there. So this is the reality, and given that it is also there are the number of schemes functioning, but still the shelter in which, or the residential places where these migrant workers live, some of them are found in the platforms also. So that is a concern, and therefore amenities with protection in the sense the ventilated apartment spaces with sanitation and health that should be there. It is mostly absent, and therefore that is not much spelled out here. So proper housing for migrant workers with a kind of not as a welfare initiative, but as a structural necessity and economic progress. And once they are given with proper accommodation only, they will also come regularly to work, and the capitalist perspective also it will be contributing. So given that the number is very, very huge, it is required a decent housing which will contribute to the well-being of the workers on the one hand, and also to capitalist production on the other and it is not much found in this. I can say that there is a special window for affordable and mid-income housing fund to provide access to low-cost housing is there, but it doesn't much capture the requirement for the migrant workers, because here the discussion is on migrant workers. So and there are a number of other initiatives with the Urban Challenge Fund, and also SWAYAM, the single window affordable scheme, etc. But it has to be an affordable rental housing complexes also. So the literature informs that there are a number of in the west and also our own neighbor countries in the South Asia, that there is affordable rent housing complexes. So particularly at least in the industrial clusters where huge number of migrant workers are there, in lakhs, they have to be provided with such facilities in order to increase the productivity and also their well-being. And about the women entrepreneurs, I could say that there are number of schemes already existing, and it is not necessary that I should speak only with this current schemes or support in this budget allocation. And Mudra Yojana is really helping, because I have been working on women entrepreneurs and several women in the petty trade, from the street vendors to minimum tailoring shop kind, and trying to say the scale. The micro enterprises are really utilizing this opportunity, but still there are lack of awareness on the one hand. And also, even if it is rupees 50,000 to 1 lakh, the banks, of course, they are not supposed to ask for the collateral, etc. But when you being women, you go, it is though it is mentioned here as up to 10 lakh, this Mudra Yojana can be given if some backup is there from the family members, including the spouse or any other source, or you have any collateral, then it is easy. But still, this Mudra Yojana's contribution is good for the past few years. And therefore, the challenge that the women face in the entrepreneurial landscape, which originally we were thinking that it is capital, and it is now not only capital to certain extent being addressed by this Mudra Yojana for the micro enterprises. But this year it was told that it will be like capturing the new and first generation entrepreneurs. This is very, very important, and it is a welcoming trend. It will be kind of helping the marginalized also. So women and marginalized sections are not only covered. I should also underline here that 90% of female entrepreneurs, according to IFC report, never been borrowing from formal financial institutions. So this is one of the major issues of concern as far as women entrepreneurship promotion is concerned. So they either rely on the traditional money lenders, or just use this now the MFIs, who are also equally like the old money lenders. And they feel that in terms of structural or the transaction cost, it is very, very easy. And therefore they rely on, because when you go to the banks or any other formal credit organization, it's very difficult to get the formalities or the procedural bottlenecks. But all these will be eased out, and it is for the first time, it is also announced like there will be a 2 crore term loan scheme for 5 lakh first time women, first generation entrepreneurs who are women or from ACSTs or first time entrepreneurs. So that is a welcome trend. But how it will be reaching them? Like the scheme has been announced several days, as it was pointed out by Paramita Saha professor also, that the kind of schemes you announce will be very, very attractive. Whether they will be implemented or it will be reaching to the extent it was like told there or presented there in the budget session, all will be the question that we need to. So 2 crore loan, the maximum means you all know without any explanation to whom it will go, because we are talking about the whole lot of micro enterprises where even taking 5 lakh or 2 lakh or 3 lakh credit itself is a challenge. And therefore this is a huge and big announcement that they will take care of a 2 crore term loan. And we already have, I can give an example there in Tamil Nadu. There is one scheme called NEETS, New Entrepreneurs with Enterprise Development Scheme, where 50% of the loan should go to women. It was emphasized when Ms. Jayalalitha was the CM. And it was like 5 crore, up to 5 crore. Here we are talking about 2 crore. So up to 5 crore they can, but hardly any 5% of the women could avail that. And very often it stay. So this bottlenecks, that should be first understood, and why women are not able to, and what is the actual underlining and root cause issues, that is to be identified before I mean, taking the gaps, because when we say that it is implemented, people are not coming forward to take up, and there are also issues related to Nirbhaya fund, which is allocated to the state, and several years they haven't utilized properly, and it was
Yes,
like
Professor Manimekalai, Dr. Aditi Sawant has an important meeting, so I'm taking her. And in the second round, I'll take your question about the SCST.